Hey, what's up, everybody? We're here. Myself, Coach Matt Hank,
I'm Coach Nick Mosich.
and we're gonna bring this to you as regular as we can, where we talk very kind of detailed and candid about different topics in sports performance. And we're gonna go into some details in terms of its non-conventional ideas and training systems and methods and strategies. So this is our first one.
Yeah. Like we're in the weight room. This is where we spend a lot of our time. We're also out on the field a lot. We're just going to talk about some speed and some different aspects today.
Yeah, so this first episode, really the topic's going to be about these first few weeks of our summer training at Santa Monica College with the athletes. And then what we're going to actually just specifically gear on is for football and then men and women's soccer. So that's what the topic is today. It's our kind of preseason prep. They both are fall sports. It is into June, basically call it the beginning of July. And we have, 2 months-ish, not even, to prep them for their season. Less than 2 months for sure, for soccer. So we wanted to go over some of the speed concepts how we're integrating and teaching different philosophies, strategies, and the actual drills.
Yeah, definitely. That and just kind of talking about what we're doing this summer, preseason training compared to years past. Obviously, we are trying to get better at our craft every year, and over COVID, we picked up a lot of different stuff that I'm sure you've seen Coach Hank talk a lot about on his social media. I talked a little bit about it, but we'll go into some more details today.
Yeah, so I think we're ready. We can do, football first is probably a good place to start.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, you want to give us a quick background where we're at now, how many weeks it's been, I guess?
Yeah, so full training year, or we want to go?
No, just this preseason only. Let's just talk about summer.
Okay.
People are going to say, and people have reached out, hey, it's prepping for football season. What are you guys doing right now? We have freshmen, that kind of context.
Right.
Brand new freshmen.
Right.
We have returners, freshmen, sophomore, they're now sophomores.
Yeah. So yeah, we're entering week 2 of summer ball right now. When we go into summer, it's a little half and half, kind of like he was talking about. We got some incoming freshmen, we got some returners that we had all spring and winter that are working, so it's a blend, right? We kind of got to go back to square one and teach some of the basic mechanics that we did in the previous block. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're 2 speed sessions in week 2. We had our second one yesterday, and I think that's kind of one of the things we want to talk about today, right?
Yeah, that'll probably be one of the main topics. So yesterday, Coach Nick is really responsible for football, and then I'm assisting with him over the years. And yesterday was our first hard session on field, right? Because the first week we really did some speed testing.
Yeah, it was testing first week, getting our flying tens in.
So I guess then his station yesterday was more linear speed starts and the mechanics and the setup for it. So I guess I wasn't at your station. So what'd you do? What's different now for the linear speed that you did essentially day 1 of summer that we didn't do last couple of years?
So day 1 yesterday, I went over a lot of starting positions and just how to test the right way. So he talked a little bit about it. Last week we did testing just to kind of see where they're at. And one of the things that I saw with them a lot was just not knowing how to set up, not knowing what to do in between. When we got 60 guys running reps, right, you're going to have a lot of downtime in between reps. So that was my big focus yesterday, as well as all the mechanic stuff that we've been drilling into them. But yeah, I very, very went specifically into the starting positions and then just get-offs. And Coach Hank went into some more detailed stuff yesterday for sure.
Yeah, so I would say then the best place to be at this point is the starting position. So what was it, 2-point, 3-point?
So we actually did both. So I started getting them set up in a good 2-point. One of the ideas, we want to go into ideas right away here?
No, yeah, just integrate anything you want right now.
Yeah, so one of the things that we went over 2-point and 3-point, but specifically what I wanted to hammer home, regardless if it was a 2-point or a 3-point, was taking the slack out of the system before you even go, right? So we talk about a lot of these ideas of not getting your backside leg too far behind you. So one of the things that we've been doing is setting ourselves up for success right away and putting that back foot as underneath you as possible. So that was kind of the first thing I did, whether it was 2-point or 3-point. And then from there, 2-point would be the starting point, taking all the slack out of the system. Then we worked into 3-point, going down into the ground. One of the things that we worked on specifically yesterday with the 3-point was the hollow positioning of your body as you're in that 3-point position. So we're talking back foot's under you as much as possible, hands right out in front of that foot, rounding out as much as you can, getting that front shin down to the floor before you take off. So those were kind of the big things that we went over there yesterday. Did I miss anything there?
No, I mean, so like with soccer too, we did some of the same stuff over the last 2 weeks in terms of this part of it, like the shin drop, shin angle change was one of them for sure. So were you telling them to get it, or was this first week just happening kind of?
Was I telling him to drop the shin on
Yeah,
the
like
first
actively get down, or any down cues or drop shin cues. I say that was one of the first ones we did with soccer these last 2 weeks was like, don't pop up. We want everything going down when we accelerate or start our speed or start our sprints. That was kind of the conversation that we had with, at least with men and women's soccer the last 2 weeks, was down to go, the low to go idea. Yeah.
Right, and that's actually a good talking point, because yes and no to answer that question. So the big thing that we kind of went, especially once we got into those 3 points, and really with the 2-point too, it was getting the shin as low as I could before I even start, and then taking the torso over the top of it, which is going to get that same thing to happen, right? If you take your torso over the top of the knee, the shin's going to fall automatically. The big thing that I focused on off the first step yesterday with those guys was torso over the top, but actually pulling the back leg through, which,
Yeah.
do we
So
want to get into that one right now?
yeah, no, we can talk about that too.
Okay.
So I guess what Nick's talking about, the idea of anchoring down, so the foot has to anchor, so then that the torso, the hips, and then the torso comes up over the top and through. So it's like, I was talking to somebody else one time, it's almost like a summation of forces kind of idea. Like everyone says from the ground up when you do power cleans. Well, like the bar still finishes on your shoulders or overhead. So it's got to finish somewhere. So it's the same thing. How do you finish a stride? Well, your body and your torso gets out in front. So we anchor the foot down, the shin drops with it, your hips and torso come over the top of that, right, where the foot stops moving. It doesn't keep moving. So it's done its job, the shin's done its job, then the hip does its job, and then you accelerate that way. So that's essentially what's happening.
Right.
And then for the back leg emphasis, or the back leg through, or another way to think of it is this first. It's the down leg. Let's start with that actually, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
say 2 feet, one left foot's on the ground, right foot's up. Okay, so anybody can see on video, but my left foot's down, my right foot's up, and I want to get a switch action. Most people would do, let's do A marches, A skips. They would punch the right leg down, and the left leg would just come up, or they would use their hip flexor to pop it up. So what we're doing instead is we are not actively thinking about punching the right leg down, we're actively trying to pick the downside leg up. The top side leg is coming down automatically to balance and stabilize you. Otherwise, you'd fall on your face. And that's essentially the cross extensor reflex in a nutshell, right? You're actively picking up one foot because of some sort of stimulus. So technically, both feet would be in the air. What would you do? You'd get your other foot down quickly to stabilize your body so that you're balanced, you don't fall. It's really like a protective mechanism that's built into the system. And then we're using that for actual sprinting now.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the big conversations we had yesterday, or at least one of the big takeaways I took, is we talk about all these different things, triple extension and pushing, all that kind of stuff, and it's just kind of reversing that lingo. And for me, it's more of a pull, right? So I'm actively pulling my legs under me.
With the back leg.
The back leg.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
not the traditional front side leg pull clawing anymore.
Right. Sorry. So yeah, let's.
So
not
we
get-
had this conversation, so
Yeah.
people know, like 2 weeks ago, because Nick was like, I'm pulling my leg, and I'm like, bro, you're an idiot. That's not what we're doing anymore. I'm like, stop pulling your shit. And then he's like, I'm pulling my back leg through. Oh, like Franz Bosch swing leg retraction
Right.
style. Oh, okay, so you're pulling your leg through backside, front
Right.
to front.
Right.
So it's a backside action that people want to eliminate. They think it's worthless. However, we're taking advantage of the backside, us.
Right. And that the biggest takeaway I had from test outs on week 1 with the football team was their foot was stuck on the backside, right? So that's been the big intervention lately with them is focus on that back foot, pulling through and forward and not getting stuck behind you. If you think about the back foot a little bit more instead of the front foot, you'll get that action going.
Yeah, so then it goes into some of the ideas of like wheels turning. So some of the acceleration philosophies and topics would be like, I didn't get into it yet with soccer in my first 2 weeks. I'm sure you didn't with football yet, but just like wheels, like smaller wheels and during acceleration, you're trying to get going. You can't take these big steps.
Right.
So in a way we did.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to talk about next, I think, too, like the 3-point, how to take that micro step kind of thing.
Yep.
So I did that with soccer, just so you guys know, like we did only a couple things. Low to goes, everything was down. So we would do like linear, but then we did a couple like lateral acceleration, and it didn't matter. I was like, nope, down to go. And then it was automatically starting to see the shin angle change in the squatted position too.
Right.
So we were always bent. I'm like, you don't sprint straight up and down. Your legs never completely straight. Doesn't make sense. And now all the athletes buy into that and get that right away. I mean, their coaches have been yelling at them since they were 4 years old to play any sport bent.
Yeah.
So do you want to, I guess, talk about getting the wheel going on the 3-point stance?
Yeah.
What you did?
Yeah, for sure. That, and it's kind of crazy. The more and more you do these things, you kind of figure some stuff out on the fly, and that's really what happened in yesterday's session. So the biggest mistake we see with get-offs, right, is too big of a step, right? That backside leg comes too far out, right? So as I was going through the 3-point setup, I was watching the guys who performed it well. And the ones who performed it well, their foot ended up right where their hand was. So if I'm in a
downside hand.
Yeah, the downside hand. So if I'm in a 3-point stance, my left leg's in front, my right leg's behind, and my right hand's on the ground, the ones who did it the best, their right foot basically landed right where their right hand was. So I just took that and used that as a cue, and that shortened that step right away. So if I got my right leg back, and then my hand is maybe a foot in front of that, that's gonna be a short step. If I can just replace my hand with my foot on the back side, that's gonna get those wheels turning right away. So that was pretty cool to see right away. Even some of our, let's just call it not athletically gifted football players, even looked a little more athletically gifted.
Yeah, I mean, so essentially they just got the wheels turning faster. In this case, there's different ways to think of it. Think of it as maybe like more of a global wheel of the whole leg. So you can talk micro wheels, maybe like the shin angle change or the hip itself, like triangular acceleration velocities and things like that. This is more just a global, the wheel of the leg was turning faster, essentially.
Right.
Which then caused the whole body to get out in front faster and to accelerate the hip to push the body in this linear fashion.
Well, and a lot of the things too is, I think a lot of the athletes think that they should be stepping further than they are. Because when I actually put a lot of these new guys in the position, they're like, Coach, I'm barely moving. But I'm like, all right, but how fast are you moving? That's really like the big thing with these wheels turning. It's like, hey, that first step is shorter, but then the second step isn't that short and it's way faster, right? So we were faster in 3 steps than some people are in 2 steps, essentially.
Yeah, so it's just back to basically timing and sequence.
Right.
That no one really works on. Everyone works on force production, shapes, positions, angles, things that we were taught, that I've been taught for 20 years. Of course, I've abandoned all of those things I just mentioned the last 5 years. But still, everyone's on board, and that's all you see on social media. What was I going to say? In terms of the small step, the other one that I'm going to get into probably next week, so just some kind of insight into where we're going to go. We did a lot of like static starts for soccer, to be honest. This next one, I like to incorporate intentional false steps, which essentially is like a micro step to get you in a better position for leverage, but then it's also like I already got a super small wheel turning, and then I get my hips over the top. So that's another one. Or even just having the athletes kind of move to go, right? Instead of always being static. Because most of the time, let's be honest, especially like the soccer team, they're not like completely static to sprint. It's like jockeying, shuffling, jogging, whatever, to a sprint. Yeah, so we're going to do a lot of that over the next, say, like couple weeks, is more integration to what the movement would look like on the field versus some of the static stuff.
Yeah, in football, we'll get into that too, because there is some level of that where you're floating a little bit mid-play, but we do go from a static start position every single play. So again, that's where the difference in the sports is, right?
Yeah, and again, it is training, but this could be I mean, we can go on a million side tangents, but this is one I've had an argument with people about. Okay, even though they are football players, we literally do static starts with them like year round to make them better at speed. And I'm like, some of these speed gurus on the internet, that's all they do. I'm like, oh, 3-point, 2-point start. They're all static.
Right.
And like, oh, we're improving their 40 for scouting purposes, for combine purposes. I'm like, okay, you can do so much of that, but your guy doesn't play static starts all day long. So that's just one thing that I had an argument with a couple people about. It was like, are you training your football player to essentially be a track athlete, or are you just improving speed and then you're going to integrate it like it should be, right? You know.
Well, and I would even go. So we're getting on a real tangent here. I'd even take it a step further, and it's like, are you truly trying to get like? Are you trying to get more? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
What, like the quality of speed or something? Or?
Yeah, sorry, elasticity. Sorry, guys,
Yeah.
lost my train of thought there for a second. So if we go in a static position all the time, regardless if it's a static start, sprinting is a very elastic component, right? So if we tell them to just do the first step over and over, we're missing out on all that reflex action, that cross-extensor reflex that we're talking about. So even training, like move to go kind of thing, can benefit those static positions, right?
No, yeah, but even taking it even further than, like day one, we still had integration of athletes working off each other a little bit, especially soccer. Yesterday with football, not as much, even in my group where I did more kind of cutting.
Right.
But that'd be the next step too, is getting a ton of integration of like visual, maybe like spatial awareness. That's what I get into even more with a lot of the teams nowadays, is like, how do you integrate the speed? I guess that was part of the argument. My whole thing was somebody who was like, all we do is straight ahead linear speed. That's all these people post. That's all they show. I've seen guys and gals who are coaches at our local park or track that live by us, and I swear to God, all they're doing is straight ahead linear speed in static starts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like partial transfer. That's it. That's what I'm basically calling you guys out. That's partial transfer.
Right. Then you get into the nervous system too, right? Like how, like we talk about variability of movements to try and get you to the next step, right? That's a whole nother kind of rabbit hole we can go down. If we're only running a straight line in the same environment over and over, you're going to plateau pretty quickly out of that, right?
Yeah, and that's what was great then even about yesterday with football. So off the bat, I had them getting curve sprints in right away because I already knew they were going to do more linear with Nick. And then we went into some, if you want to call it more closed, change of direction, but we actually like worked on a characteristic or an element. So back in the day, right, remember 10 years ago, however many years ago, we were at another college. Yeah, it's been a while. At other colleges, or even before I had that job, it would be like, set up the cones, all right, do an M drill or W drill or Z drill, whatever you guys call it, and just do it. Hey, do it faster. Oh, do it faster, harder. Like maybe we would tell them to get lower. Now, like for example, yesterday we talked for a few minutes ahead of time. I'm like, how do I go from, if you're on camera, you can really see me, but how do I go from straight to left? How do I do that? And it was like, point your body, point your hip. Like they had all these different answers. So yesterday, all we did was steer our wheel. So we had that front side foot, boop, we steer the wheel. That was level 1. Like I could give them 4 or 5 levels to this easily, but it's day 1. And this one I know has immediate transfer, and it's an element that's universal with every single change of direction that's out there. If you watch any kind of sports, it doesn't matter sport. Yesterday happened to be football. But so they would do a plant, and I don't use cones. I tell them to free flow it within this space. That's another difference. We set up cones before, kind of like M drill, Z or W drill status. Yesterday was, here's lines on the football field. Anytime you want to flow your cut, and do it. I didn't tell them to get 4 cuts in or 6 or 8. I didn't tell them anything like that. I said you cut when you get near this open space and you move your body to the left. And how are you going to move your body? And it was like, again, just pick the feet up. And then they started to understand, no, I want you to steer the foot, switch the feet. I'm like, did you work on switches this whole off season with sprinting? Yes. So they picked up on that right away. So that's all we did day 1 for change of direction. Day 1 was literally steer the foot the direction you want to go, meaning in the air, point it the direction you want to go. So when it lands, it's already it's ready to switch in that direction. And you got to switch the feet. Don't get your feet stuck in the ground, because then some of the guys will get stuck in deep angle positions, and then they would try to pivot and switch the foot or steer the foot. I said, no, we do all our stuff in the air. We don't do it on the ground. So you switch your foot in the air. You steer the foot in the air. And that was for sure, a couple of people were like, whoa, you know.
Well, and that goes back to even what we talked about in the beginning. When you switch the feet, it stops the back leg from getting stuck behind you. So we're talking about the same things in change of direction here as well, which, again, a lot of people aren't talking about, right?
Yeah, no, again, most people just, again, go on YouTube, go on Instagram, go whatever. They're going to show change of direction drills. And it's always, yeah, go faster, go harder. Oh, sink, drop your hips, drop your chest. I'm like, okay, we're not dropping our chest. Even for the wide receivers, we're dropping our hips. But that wasn't even really that much of an emphasis today. It was really, how do you get out of it? Like people will do, I guess, side tangent, people will do day one change of direction. What would they do? Day one change of direction, what would people do right now and what we would have done 10, 15 years ago?
I mean, like punch the ground and turn, right?
Not even that. What would they do before that?
Like plyometrics?
Dead stops.
Oh, yeah.
We did 0 dead stops yesterday. 0.
I was going to say decel next.
Yeah,
right?
decel. No,
Right,
they would do all decel day one.
Yeah.
And that's all people would spend. We had 20 to 25 minute stations.
Yeah.
And they would go literally 25 minutes of decel, stop, decel, stop.
Yeah.
Stick. And I was like, wow, okay. How often are my football guys running and just stopping? No, maybe they break down and their feet are kind of moving and chattering and shifting, and even that's microseconds. Like how often is the middle linebacker, they always give me this example, like the middle linebacker might penetrate to the A or B gap and then look for the running back. And I'm like, bro, microseconds, they're not sitting in their hip position and reading a textbook.
Yeah.
They're like scanning and their feet are still moving, by the way. How often, I mean, you've been with the football team, how often is the middle line, because that's the excuse I get back. No, sometimes my middle linebackers or safeties, they go and they decel and they stop and read the game. They just stop. I'm like, bro, what sport are you playing? Do they actually stop?
No, they don't.
It's
They don't.
microseconds.
And I'm looking at this, I'm like, it's been a while since I played football, but I was a lifetime linebacker, and I never did that. Like, you're constantly moving. You're
Right.
in the hole.
Or the other one is the basketball gurus go, no. They stop and then they play D. They just completely stop. I'm like, really? You're just gonna go full speed, decel, drop your hips, stop. Okay, good luck trying to guard Kyrie Irving. Good luck trying to guard Morant. Good luck trying to guard Steph. Bro, if you're just gonna go dead stop and all they're gonna do is give you one hip shift and they're gone, that makes no sense.
That's kind of like an interesting point as he talks about that too. Is like the game of basketball has changed over the last 10 years, and like those big ass centers who get into dead stops they're not around as much anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like that could be part of the evolution of the game. Right?
Yeah, I get you need to, so let's bring it back full circle.
Yes.
This is what happens. So do you need to learn how to change speeds to change direction? Duh, that'd be like, obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Do you need to learn how to go from high positions to low positions back to high? Duh, yes.
Yeah.
Do you need to learn how to cut off of one foot and the other foot and switch? Yes. But do you need a dead stop to do that? No. That's my point nowadays. So that's where I am, at least. So all we did, I'll just finish mine real quick.
Yeah.
All we did yesterday was no dead stops. It was hit, switch the feet, go. Okay, now I want you to hit this angle, that angle. And I just manipulate. We didn't even have that much time to get in all these different types of angles that I'll get into eventually. We really were more at like I guess relative to the cut, we were like at a 135 or whatever that is to the line.
Yeah.
Split the 90s,
Right.
whatever that is.
45?
Yeah, 45 to the 90. So it was not a sharp hard cuts. And then we did some even rounded. Like I said, we did curve sprints. But it was always redirect your movement. And that's how I was going to finish this little quick discussion here for the change of direction, was always redirecting. I was telling the guys, like, keep the feet moving, keep the switches going, because I want you to go somewhere. You're literally changing the direction. You're going as an offensive player, faking somebody, deking them, whatever, feinting them. They're going this way, now you're going this way. So keep the feet moving, steer the foot in the air. If you're a DB, you're going this way, all of a sudden you're reacting to something, your feet got to keep moving going this way. You're redirecting your movement, redirecting energy and flow. We're not dead stopping. So that's kind of 2 cents on that.
Well, and the one thing I did want to talk about is he sent me a video of some of these guys working yesterday, and I literally, we had 2 athletes side by side, and one athlete is probably going to be one of our starters, and one of them definitely is not going to be. The one who is not the starter did the steer the foot cue and was faster.
Mm-hmm.
What did the other one do?
Like 2.5 extra steps.
Dead stop. He tried to dead stop to get out of it.
Yeah, and then the only thing he could do is swing his leg around the opposite leg.
Cross over. Yeah, exactly.
He crossed over.
He crossed over.
Exactly.
So he added 2 extra steps.
Yep.
And it was behind the kid who is slower than him, for sure.
Yep.
But we gave him a better, or Coach Hank gave him a better strategy, and all of a sudden,
Well, he listened, though, let's be
Yeah.
honest. He
Yeah.
took, but that's the thing. He
Yeah.
took in the strategy better.
Right,
he literally was the line leader, the guy that did it right, and was like, "Oh, that makes sense," like engaged. And then some of the other kids were just like, "Man, is that real? Is that what you do? Am I supposed to do that?" And like, sometimes as an athlete these days, like they're questioning everything, and then sometimes you got to be like, you can't question everything. I don't go to my CPA and question every single thing the dude says. We'd be there all day. If he tells me write this on my taxes, I write it. I'm not going to be like, "Oh, did you really get your your licensing and your degree from that college? Well, what coursework did you take? Did you read that in a study? No, bro. He told me to do A, so I'm going to do A, and then he told me to do B, so I'm doing B. My physician told me to take this medication for this problem. I'm doing it. You don't question every single freaking thing, especially when it's elementary in terms of basic movement patterns.
Yeah.
So, but that makes sense. Like he took it in better and executed it better.
right, 100%. Yeah, and literally, it's on film. It's crazy to see the difference in these things.
Yeah. What else for straight ahead speed for week 1 and 2? Anything we really wanted to cover? We talked about like wheels. We talked about cross extensor reflex, that switching mechanism.
You want to pick
compression.
one of those 2 to finish today?
Which
Coil or squatted?
I guess let's say squatted for sure.
Okay.
So I was saying a little bit, the first 2 weeks we emphasized low to go, and we were in a bent position or like squatted position. That people don't like that term.
Right.
One thing before I keep going, squatted position does not mean you continue to squat. That's already been established many, many times. It just means that you're bent. So we stayed bent, and then we executed a sprint in a bent position.
It's relative knee flexion is all it is. We're just not extending the knee. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and most kids have like squatted before, so they know what that means.
Right. So, I mean, do we want to go into like just the basics of what it looks like and what it's doing for you, or how do you want to segment that one?
Yeah, we could do the last couple minutes.
Okay. You want to start it, or you want to start it?
I guess a couple things is relating it again to folding and compression to the squat.
Right.
So for us, and then relating that to loading the levers in these positions too. These shorter levers, and you're taking greater falls, you're going to create greater speeds. So you're going to be able to do that into these squatted positions versus these long, tall positions, which gets back into like the timing and sequence too. Yeah, so everything we're doing now on the field is talking about that timing sequence mechanism, and we're able to get there, we feel better when our athletes are in these bent and squatted positions, right? Versus getting long and lengthen out and then getting back down. Long, lengthen out, getting back down. No, just stay into this squatted position and get into this pick the feet up, or pick up replace, or things like that, or switches the feeds. Those kind of cues just work well with bent positions too.
Well, yeah, and the bent positions are what creates the elastic components, right? Like if you actually go and look at these top sprinters, NFL players, whatever you want to look at, they are balled up. They look like a human Super Bowl. They're literally shooting across the field. They are rounded through the thoracic spine. It's common with everyone. Even the tall guys, if you look very closely, maybe that knee extends, but that back foot's coming through so much quicker, and it's all elastic, right? So if you're not someone who is gifted completely elastic from day one, these squatted positions are the perfect intervention. And I would even say, even if you are the most gifted athlete, you're gonna be even better if you start to squat it a little bit more. It's hard for some people to see because it is minute sometimes, but everyone is squatting if they're moving fast, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the flat back triple extension, that we were taught. Like I went to USA Track and Field Level 1, and I was like, okay, 2 days of telling me all these things that don't apply. Cool. Doesn't make any sense. They're all cheetahs. The fastest athletes are cheetahs. Cheetahs don't have, they go here like a flex position, right? Like rounded. So if you're only listening, I'm kind of flexing my hand, I'm curling it, and then I'm extending it. But then I gotta curl it, then extend it, curl it, extend it. And then that's where people see the extended Marcel Jacobs and they go, hey, Coach Hank, you know what you're talking about, dog. Look at this guy. He's fully extended. I was like, he's the best in the world. Not like the best in Italy, not the best in the US, the best, this is a globe, right? If you ever taken a history class, it's a globe. He's actually the best on the entire freaking globe at extending to flexing. So he gets outstretched and he folds quicker than anyone in the world. So you're trying to tell me that your D2 football player, your high school baseball player can do that as well as him? Hell fucking no. Can't.
Yeah.
So he can get away with that. Some other people can too, but I would not teach that strategy day one. Like, let people get fully extended in this triple extended position and then learn how to fold. No, I mean, we're going to stay folded from day one. You're going to keep staying folded. I'm teaching you that. Maybe then we'll work on the nuances of your specific style sprint. But you're at a college, or you're at a high school, or even if you're elite, bro, you're not in the Olympics. Or if you are, then we're talking different. But all the guys that we work with and gals, all the people that we know, even like, oh, I'm a pro basketball NBA trainer. Okay, they're not the best movers. Sorry, you and I both know that. Some of the best ball handlers in the world, not the best sprinters. Well, I trained one of the fastest baseball guys. He's not a sprinter. He plays baseball.
Right.
So there's got to be some starting spot for all these guys.
Even him though, like you're creating the flexion to get the extension.
No, I know.
So if I had him as my athlete, I would still be training those flex positions every single day, and then when he goes out and races, let him extend, right?
No,
More
yeah.
or less. Like,
yeah.
it's
Well, the
still
flexion creates the extension, and
Right.
and the extension creates the flexion, essentially.
Right, yeah.
But a lot of people don't know how to get the compressed, squatted state.
Right.
That's what we're finding out.
Yeah,
That's the biggest
100%.
thing. I mean, that's almost
Yeah,
the
like-
place to end it, to be honest with you, is that, yeah, we're finding out one of the best starting spots is these folded positions. Again, when you're in those positions, it's also easier to move in air instead of only on the ground.
Right, right. Yeah, and there's more elements to it, and I'm sure, like, I think next topic, that compression idea, we'll kind of get into a little bit more in some of those other ideas.
Yeah, and we can team it up with like some of the coiling stuff that we do.
Yeah.
Just to maybe even quickly foreshadow it, just because it happened yesterday, so it's so kind of fresh and raw, and then we talked a lot about it yesterday after the session. I did a drill. It was just a drill, and you know me now, like I don't do a lot of speed drills, so they still ran. They were running. Like they didn't do marches and skips, they ran. But they did what we would call like a coiling drill, where there's some rotation and we're connecting our scap and getting some rotation of our spine, and it's essentially a compression strategy. And we did a little PVC pipe drill. Some of the athletes were like, whoa, this is crazy. You're trying to tell me that Usain Bolt does this? Yes. And then the same guy goes to me, you're trying to tell me Tyreek Hill does this? Yes. And then he goes, you're trying to tell me DK Metcalf does this? Because it was football guys, remember?
Yeah.
And I go, yes. I'm like, anybody else?
Yeah.
Like, you guys know how to name famous athletes. Very good.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep saying the word yes. So we can go into what exactly it looked like next time, but just kind of a little foreshadowing that, yeah, this rotation element teamed up with a compression strategy.
And the wheels turning.
All of it. They all work together,
all
yeah.
of it. Nothing we're doing now is not integrated from top to lower through the core and all that.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the best way to summarize where we're at and where we're going to go with the podcast, is that we're looking at different ideas and strategies and topics that are a little more on the unconventional side. I'm not going to do any more at this point in my life. I started the first 10 to 15, 12 years of what everyone told me to do, A skips, to marches, to skips, to B variations, to high knees, to pull through with your hip flexor only, punch down only with the front side leg. What else did they teach that's just complete garbage?
Just tall, all the
Tall, yeah,
positions.
punch, attack, everything's force driven. The only way to be fast is to produce more force.
if you're tall, you're losing the battle against gravity. That's like one of the simplest concepts to understand. If you don't understand that concept, try to understand that.
Yeah. So cool. I mean, that was kind of our intro to this whole podcast idea here, is that we'll take you through different things that we're experiencing with real athletes, real-time coaching, not just people who talk, not just people who post things on Instagram, but actually coaches who are coaching athletes on a regular basis and have different problems and have to come up with different strategies to solve those problems. That's really what we do.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Cool. Thanks.